good afternoon everyone. My name is Daniel White. Today I'll be giving you a quick block of instruction on pencil making. Alright, outline, we're going to cover pencil history, just a basic block of instruction on how pencils came about. We're going to go over different raw materials used in creating pencils. We're going to go over a typical 12-step process that's used in making pencils. Alright, pencils are probably a simple but yet probably one of the most useful artifacts that we have since our creation. It's been used in some shape or form since the mid-1400s. It's typically not used as much as it used to be used with the advances in technology. But I'm sure no one really knows how they're made, so I'm going to give you a quick class on how they're made. Originated in prehistoric times, when chalky rocks and charred sticks were used to write on walls. Like I said before, the earliest descendant was in the late 1400s. And graphite is actually what how pencils are wrote. Smart pencils are made. It's not lead, which a lot of people think. Gluing strips of wood around graphite developed in the 1600s. Alright, the barrel dam mines were depleted like around the late 18th century. And a French chemist named Nicolas Conta, he discovered that if you mix powdered graphite and powdered clay and water, you can make pure graphite. And, depending on the different proportions that you use with that mixture, is how you get harder and softer graphite. And in 1839, Lothar von Faber of Germany developed a method of making graphite paste into rods, the same thickness. A number of these mines were set up in the U.S. after the War of 1812, which pretty much ended all English imports. And William Monroe, a cabinet maker in Concord, Massachusetts, invented a machine that cut and improved wood slates, or grooved wood slates precisely enough to make pencils. Around that time, American inventor Joseph Dixon developed a method of cutting single cylinders in half, placing graphite core in one of the halves, and then gluing the two halves back together. Alright, today the hardness of the pencil is designated by the numbers on the pencils. It's usually from 1 through 4, 1 being the softest, which makes the darkest mark, and 2 is what we typically use today for writing. You can also use letters and numbers, like 6B and 9H. And the idea of attaching an eraser to a pencil was traced back to Hyman W. Lippmann, an American, whose 1858 U.S. patent was bought by Joseph Freckendorfer in 1874 for reported $100,000. Alright, the raw materials, like I said, is graphite. Most people call it lead, but it's actually graphite. And it's usually graphite and clay that's mixed together, and they also use other chemicals as well. The wood is typically from California cedar or any type of wood that resists or can withstand repeated sharpening. And then you have the furrow, which is the metal clasp that holds the eraser together, which is typically made of rubber and pumice. Now we're going to get into the 12-step process. Chunks of graphite and clay are placed inside a huge rotating drum. The rocks are crushed, and the graphite and clay is crushed down to fine powder, and water is added, and the mixture is blended for 3 days. Then the machine squeezes all the water out of the mixture, leaving behind a gray sludge. The worker puts the sludge in cabinets where it air dries and hardens for 4 days. Huge wheels grind the dried sludge into another fine powder, and water is blended again to make a soft paste. The paste is pushed through a metal tube and comes out in the shape of thin rods. The rods are cut into pencil-length pieces called leads and set along a conveyor belt to dry. After drying, the pencil leads are put into an oven heated to 1800 degrees Fahrenheit. Intense heat makes the lead smooth and hard, which makes for good writing points. Another part of the factory, the wood is prepared. Basically, it's put on wide slates, and 8 shallow grooves are sawed lengthwise into each slat. A thin coat of glue is applied to the slats, and one pencil lead is placed into each of the 8 grooves. Within seconds, another wide groove slat is glued on top, sandwiching the leads. When the glue dries, the slats are fed through a cutting machine. Fast revolving steel blades trim the wood into round or hexagonal shapes, one side at a time. The same machine cuts apart each slat into 8 separate pieces of pencils. The pencils are sanded. Each one receives from 5 to 8 coats of paint. A heated metal stamp presses the name of the company and the number, such as number 2 on the pencil in foil or paint. The number indicates how hard the pencil is. And the metal band, called the ferrule, is wrapped tightly around one end of the pencil. It holds the eraser, which is being added here. The pencils are then ready to be sharpened, packaged, and used. Excuse my class. Have a great day.